The Lady of Ashes is the boss of potentially the hardest combat encounter in Stormgrounds, but if you know her encounter well enough, then you will be able to achieve victory. This is a direct continuation of my previous walkthrough campaign, so if you want to see how I built up my warband, what their equipment is, and how I piloted them up to this point, then go ahead and check out that video. This one is only going to be about the boss battle. So, the Lady of Ashes is the anchor here. The things that you really have to know about her is that she has a flaming aura. If you get units within 2 spaces of her, she will light them on fire and do damage underneath their armor, which is just terrifying for the Stormcast, especially the Stormcast because they have a tiny warband and they rely on their armor for their durability. She also has an area of effect damage spell that she can use her scythe right in front of her, and then she has an infinite range flaming claw that again does damage underneath the armor, but she will not be using any of those until you damage her first or activate the final wave. Otherwise, she is going to be sitting back on her dais watching her minions go after you. So you can really time when you want to go after her, and we'll cover that as we get to it. So here, this first wave, we have a set of only 4 enemies guarding her, and she is blocked off from the rest of the map by those flaming thorns. Those flaming thorns are no joke. You don't want to stand next to them because they actually do damage to your units that are in adjacent spaces. They don't hurt the enemies, they hurt you. You saw Freya get a tick of the damage there, and it was probably a mistake of me to open up with the Castigators as early as I did because of how mobile these enemies are and how much damage they do. Bringing in something with a little bit of armor that could have teamed up with Freya, I think would have been a smarter choice, but have no fear. If you take some early losses, if you persevere, you can still come out on top. Don't just despair and think that you have to start the campaign over. Here we are just clearing out the final enemies of this wave, and then once we clear them out, the thorn barrier is going to break down and we're going to be able to progress to the next stage. Voila! The Lady of Ashes has withdrawn to the highest tier of her dais, and Wave 2 has spawned. Here we have enemies in the center and both wings, so a much harder group of enemies, and we still only have a few units on the board, so we're going to have to be careful here how we deal with these guys. I do love how they have the layers of height on this map. I kind of wish that they brought it into more maps. It is considered just one level of high ground every time you go up there, and maybe it would just cause artillery to go too insane with that much of a height advantage, which is why they left it off. But I feel like it is a missed opportunity in the map building here that they're only showing off this kind of verticality on the boss battle. So we advance here, leveraging Freya's insane armor values against the enemy. The more charges that she takes, the better we are going to do because the enemies can just barely get through her shield. It's absolutely insane. She's teamed up here with a unit of Liberators, which is the real MVP of this battle. These Liberators are kitted out with some insane stuff. Liberators are like the perfect platform for upgrades. I think that they were one of the earliest units that the devs must have made. They made them kind of the prototype of this platform of upgrades. You have so much versatility. What I've built out here is that these Liberators have an upgrade giving them health back every turn they are in a shield wall, which is extremely valuable because of all their armor. They're probably only taking 1 or 2 damage from enemies' attacks. And then I also found a rare piece of loot, which is a lightning rod shield, and that means that they get a stack of electric damage that they will do to an adjacent enemy at the start of their turn. And so every turn it stacks up an extra piece of damage. As far as I know, there's no cap. There could be, but I end up getting a ton of stacks on it later on, as you will see, and they just keep on stacking up. It's absolutely amazing. Now, don't think that you have to have these ultra rare loot items to be able to beat this encounter. You don't. If you follow this kind of tactic, you're going to be able to get the Lady of Ashes into a place where you can take her down without, but you're still going to be able to see a huge dump of damage coming out of this lightning rod shield. I absolutely love it. So this is a tactic that you can actually bring into any of the stages, but it is most important here against the Lady of Ashes, and this is timing when you finish off waves before moving on. Effectively, keeping these chain ghasts here allows me to regroup my units and progress up the stages of the dais, which is very movement expensive because I have to go up 2 levels of high ground and then be able to time jumping in on the Lady of Ashes. So the chain ghasts are the best enemies to leave for this kind of situation because they are not going to charge against your units and effectively suicide themselves against the return damage, forcing progression in the level. The chain ghasts are going to stay back and just do range attacks against you. Now, they do have decent damage, and because they ignore 1 stack of armor, they are going to be taxing our health, but it is still more valuable for us to just keep them alive and take this time to rush towards the Lady of Ashes so that we can have a coordinated strike against her all together rather than killing the chain ghasts and then progressing the level. What the next stage is the Lady is going to move down to right in front of the dais on the lowest ground, and then both of the altars on either corner are going to light up, and they are going to start continually spawning enemies, which are, some of them are banshees, which is very annoying. Here is the push. We are going to try and get as much damage against the Lady while she is up at the top of her dais as possible. She is not going to move down until the beginning of her turn. So on our turn, we can continue to attack as much as possible, which we do here, chunking her out to half health. Oh, it is so good. It feels so good to be able to do this. She doesn't have too much armor, but she does have an enormous health pool. There she is. She jumps down to the base, and we see that the altars are lit. So she is forcing progression of the level, even though the chain ghasts are still in play. So you cannot cheese it to the extent of keeping just the chain ghasts around for the entire battle. There are other contingencies that the game has to keep on progressing and keeping the difficulty going. So it's not a perfect workaround, but it did give us a lot of cover to be able to get into a great position to do a huge amount of damage to the Lady of Ashes. And there we had Freya in a good position to be able to swing down and get another chunk against the Lady of Ashes. She is at a dangerously low level. I love this Palindor unit. It is kitted out being able to attack twice a turn and ignore retaliation damage. That was partially why we were able to get such a good chunk against the Lady of Ashes. So feeling very good about our chances here. Now, once the Lady has activated, she has all of her spells at her disposal. The enemies don't show how much Aether they have, but if you mouse over them, you can see if a skill is grayed out or not, and that's how you can know if they are able to cast it or not. Here we go, and for the final push, it's just a press in to kill the Lady of Ashes. Once you defeat her, the combat is over, and Freya deals the final blow. The Lady of Ashes exploding there, and the dump of exposition coming after. So there you guys have it with these tactics of managing the enemy waves, knowing what is going to come up next, and dealing coordinated strikes against the Lady of Ashes at key moments. You can try and rush her down without her being able to wear you down with her flaming aura and other abilities. Like if you enjoyed the video, comment on how you have been successful against the Lady of Ashes, and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.